performance artists come under this situation, like you're quite vulnerable when you are in the street.
So here we go. So, welcome again to Evil O. This is Waswo X Waswo coming to you from Udaipur in Rajasthan. And today I am speaking with someone who is an artist, a printmaker, but is most known probably as a performance artist. So I'd like to introduce you to Dimple Shah. How are you, Dimple, today?
I'm good. How are you, Vaspo?
I'm good, yes. And you're calling from Kolkata?
No, I'm calling from Bangalore, India.
From Bangalore. I always get confused with you being in Kolkata for some reason.
No, I have never studied in Kolkata. I
You,
studied in Baroda.
so you're in Bangalore now. Okay,
Yes.
good. TK. So let's just talk a little bit. I first met you when I was making my collection of Indian printmaking. And I met you, I think, through Lena Vincent, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And you had some really outstandingly beautiful prints. I ended up buying a very beautiful etching, which was called Metamorphosis 2, I think it was. I think you had made it in Glasgow.
Yes. Those set of works were I had done during my residency at Glasgow Print Studio, and it was like I had 9 months residency there, so I had created huge prints during that time, and that one was one of the work which was also got a national award.
It got a national award in India,
Yeah.
a national award in India. Well, it deserved it. It was just a gorgeous print. I mean, the quality of it was so masterfully done. Um, so I knew you as a printmaker, and I had you in the printmaking shows that traveled around India. And then all of a sudden, you started doing performance art. Maybe you were doing performance art when I first met you. I don't know. But you became quite well known as a performance artist. So why don't you just tell us a little about that journey from, being a printmaker and artist and then saying, I'm going to be a performance artist. That was a big leap.
Performance art and printmaking went hand in hand. So when I
Really?
was in yeah, and when I was doing my masters in Baroda, first year it was simultaneously I was exploring performance and printmaking. So what I did, I used to do is those days there were not much live performance happening. So I did photographic performance stills, and then I used it in photo etching. So that's how I merged this two different mediums into one. And then
That's right. I remember. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you, but I remember I bought another big print of yours, which was based on a photograph of that you had taken of yourself.
yes,
And it was called, I forget what it was called. Do you remember the name of it?
I think you took only one print.
I took one.
Yeah. Maybe you took serigraphy print also.
Yeah, I took a serigraphic print. It was a photo of you and it was very Victorian and it was sort of goldish in color. You remember?
No, Vasbo. I think only one print.
Only one. I took the Metamorphosis.
Yes. Yes. Metamorphosis. That is a huge work, and that is the one you have collected.
I didn't take the other. I might be confusing that with something I bought from Mutushi.
Maybe. Yeah.
I'm
Because
confusing it with something I bought from Mutushi, I think.
yes, because she had some colonial time images of Bengal ladies, sitting and
My apologies. Yes, I'm confusing it with Mutushi. Exactly. And that's why also I confuse you with Kolkata sometimes, I think.
yeah, many get confused with me because of my look. They get confused either I'm a Bengali or maybe a Marathi.
Yeah. So anyway, continue with your talking about your performance art. What were some of the first performances that you did?
So I did my first performance during my master's 2001 in the faculty auditorium. And it was a huge project with a huge investment. I'd created like 30 feet long tunnel through which audience was supposed to enter into the auditorium. And it had a little bit touch of theatrical backdrop because I had done theater before that, like 5 years before I entered performance art. So I worked in some theaters like with Arundhati Nag and Jaishri, who are theater personalities in Bangalore. So during my college days, I've done some theater work. So I had that touch of theater when I started my journey. And that's why during my first performance, I had very raw colors like red, black, kind of distinguishing between the emotions, like black is like dark and something like that. So when I started, it was like marking my face into black, half black, and keeping it raw. So those kind of things I started with, but then I evolved. And in 2003, I after the Godra rights, I did one more performance at Kanuri Art Center, and it was titled Saffron Border. And then I shifted
So
2000.
what was, wait, what was that performance about? The one that was you called Saffron Border.
It was because during Godra Roits, I was very much in Baroda during that time, since I was living in Baroda. And it was my emotive response to what I had seen, because I was in very sensitive area, Nizampura, and all the sites, you have this Muslim community and then one small Hindu community, and there were like, we could hear the cylinder blast in next to next road. And
Oh
it's,
my God.
yeah, it was very traumatic experiences
So
which,
you were really close to it all.
yes, yes. So those that performance was specifically to respond to that. So I was talking about, like, if somebody is dead, but then there is nobody to claim the body also at that moment. So and how one encounters the fire, enclosed in fire, like, because many houses were burned. So those emotive responses were in my performances.
When you do performance, do you do a lot of speaking? When I've seen you do performance, it's been very quiet. You've been very silent during your performances. Or do you do speaking, or do you do poetry, or?
No, no, I don't speak in my performance, but I have a. I nowadays I'm using some vocal sound modulations. It's just like a prayers or something, but it doesn't have any words or any text. So it's just a kind of in voice modulation which I use it, but I don't usually use poetry, or maybe when I'm writing about it, I add the poetry, like,
Yeah.
so if, when I'm making my blog, then I have the poetry there, or maybe I'll be giving those poetry to the audience when I'm performing. So but I don't read out my poems during
Yeah,
the.
I noticed that your performance is quiet because when I lived way, way, way back long, when I lived in Milwaukee, we would go see performance artists who came in from New York and different places. And there, we actually had a venue in Milwaukee that just did performance art, believe it or not, art space. And some of the performance artists were more like performative poets, and they would do poetry and they would be kind of joke with the audience and things. But they also did a lot of what you think of as performance art, but there was a lot more vocality, that's a word, to it. You know, have you ever thought of going in that direction or no? Or do you
I've
like
been
the stillness of it?
I now I don't do just action. It's more to do with the one-to-one interaction with the audience. So from past I think 4 years, I've been doing one-to-one interactive work with the audience, but they are very personal, very intimate. So sometimes I create a kind of an cubicle space wherein our audience come one by one, and other audience are very curiously waiting outside that cubicle box. To have that kind of an intimate performances. So in 2018, I did that kind of performance for echoes of shamanism. This was curated by Nina Bowes and E.K. Trinks. And it was about shamanistic practice and rituals, artists who are working with this elements. So they had invited me. So I had created this kind of a net-like transparent cubicle space, and there was a projection from outside, and also there was a light inside, so they could see kind of an solitude of me and my audience who is interacting with me, and they also could hear little bit of us, but they are always curious like what's happening inside, and we want to experience. And this performance was supposed to be for 1 hour, and it went on for 2.5 hours. I had to extend because people were waiting in queue to have that kind of an intimate.
That sounds fabulous. How much time did each person get with you, basically?
Basically, I think 5 minutes,
Five
and
minutes, something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, and then had also asked them to do something their own kind of creative stuff outside, because it was there was like rice outside which was spread, and they had to do some forms with that. So some of the elements from Indian like gauli we make in Jain text, we use this gauli for prayers, making form with the rice, and I asked them to do that. So it was like more in, and they really enjoyed it, and that's why the performance went for 2.5 hours, because after intimate interaction and instructions, I facilitate some of the things, I instruct them, and I also facilitate the kind of a ritual process where they feel really kind of touched, and and then they go out and they do one more ritual,
They
which
they they left with a duty to perform
yes.
that the artist has assigned them, but in a creative way. I know you went to Africa too. You were in Senegal, I think.
Nigeria, Lagos.
Nigeria, Lagos. Yes. What did you do in Nigeria? What
Uh,
that was part of some sort of an artist camp, or what was it?
this was an artist residency,
Okay.
and it is actually organized. It was organized by one of the very well-known Nigerian performance artists, Jalili Atiku, and he invited me for this 15 days residency there, and I did a performance in his village, Ijibo village, with the ladies around. And then there were like names written on my face. And at that moment, I was working with the issues of rape victims in India and all over. So the
Okay.
names of women artists were written on my face, and I performed that with their headgear, which is called gile. So they had dressed
What
me with their headgears.
what was the response? Did people enjoy this?
Yes, they because I in people in the village were like they have a very small community, and Jalili is one of is also called as Prince in his village. And so when you walk, people are obviously curious. They don't know much about performance art, but when you ask, when you have one-to-one interaction with them, explaining them, and I had some multiple headphones which I was carrying, and there were like several kinds of news which was bombarded in that, and people were curious to hear, maybe it's a song or something, but then when they hear that, so there were like a lot of crowd with a curiosity, and I didn't mind because I wanted them to come to me, and that was a kind of an interactive force between me and the, and then I, when women came, I explained them, and there were some could understand English, some couldn't. So there were one person, artist, who was helping me to translate my language to them, and then we had an interaction.
Yeah, you're really great with your costuming, I've noticed. You make all your costumes yourself, I assume. So
Yes,
when you were in Nigeria, did you source all the materials in Lagos and
yes. I
make your
had
own
my
costume?
my I had one plain dress, but the gile which was on my head, which was a spontaneous work with that.
That's the really big, like women's headwear that they wear in
Yeah,
Nigeria. Yeah,
yes,
I love those.
yes. So they did that was part of the performance. So they dressed me on the spot on the road.
Okay.
So I included as a part of my work process itself.
I'm curious about these things though, like when you perform, do you just get other artists watching or do you get the public watching too? Is there public participation?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah,
most of my performances are public participative.
okay,
So one more performance I can talk about is 2013 when I was in Calcutta, and this was in the Nimtala Ghat, cremation ghat, and that was the period 2003-14. I worked majorly on rape victims. So then I was carrying a bowl of turmeric, and I went in the on the road and I asked people to just smear turmeric on me. So anybody could come and apply turmeric, and they would get a turmeric root in return as a kind of healing exchange.
okay.
So this kind of interactive work I keep on doing.
It did. I'm just curious about that work because I saw that on Facebook, I think. And I just wondered, were any of the men taking advantage of that, of where they
Oh,
placed the turmeric? And
yes, yes. You actually performance artists come under this situation, like you're quite vulnerable when you are in the street. Sometimes you can understand when somebody applies you turmeric, you have a bad touch and good touch kind of feeling. So this kind of situation we do encounter, but then there are like also friends around you, like if they understand, then they just help you to just move
so
smoothly.
you always have some support around you that makes sure
Yeah,
nothing gets out
usually,
of control.
yeah, usually it is a crowd of artists, community, and local people. So, so there is always a kind of there are people around to help you, and
And that was done in Kolkata.
yes.
See, I knew there was a Kolkata connection somewhere. I always get confused. You're not the only one. So many times I confuse people in Bangalore of living in Kolkata. I don't know why I do that. Anyway, um, and Lena Vincent, I still think she lives in Bangalore. Sometimes I forget that she moved to go.
Goa, yeah. Lena has a very deep connection with all the artists in Bangalore, and she's a great supporter of young artists. And
Yeah,
I really appreciate, and I get inspired seeing her way she has progressed from, like starting with a very small curations to now having a very good curatorial work, and she does a lot of interesting projects.
she's developed a very good name for herself, and I like her Wednesday midweek midweek chat.
Yes.
Which is interesting. I'm glad she's doing that. Oh no, I love Lena to death. She's just wonderful. So when you do a performance like this, do you think, I don't know how to explain it. Do you think that that's a good way to address an issue like rape? Do you think people get the message or
But it at least we have to try, I feel, maybe
yeah,
they're getting 50% and maybe 50% of people are not getting it. At least one or two, even if you can transform somebody's one person's life through your work, I think it's
right.
a great achievement, I feel. And we try our best, because unless first of all, there is no awareness of performance art in India. Unless we don't go to them, how a common people will understand there is something called as performance art? So
I hope you have some videos of these performances that we can insert in this
surely, yeah.
yeah, okay, that would be good. Recently I saw on Facebook you had constructed a costume. It looked like it was made out of what we call burlap, jute, jute, I guess, with
Yes.
many pockets, and you had grasses or something growing out. Can you tell us about that one?
Yeah, this was a part of curatorial project done by Lena Vincent. So it was for the Goethe Institute, and it was part of Good Food Show. So the most of the artists were talking about the food, and talking about the environmental concern. So the elements which I incorporated in my performance was making my own costume with the jute, and I was growing millet in that. And then later on, no, that time it was wheatgrass, because I've done several series of it. Once I've done with the millet, once I've done with wheatgrass, once I've done with green gram. So it's a different series. So that moment I had grown this wheat grass, and I distributed later to the common people, like who interacted with me. So one, they'll take it and they can make a juice out of it. So it's talks
Oh,
about.
it's for making a juice. I thought it was for planting.
No, green grass, when it is very tender, you can drink it as a very healthy drink in the morning in the empty stomach.
So
So
very tender green grass.
yes,
You can what you grind it up and then you make like in a juicer
yes.
or in a pedestal.
No, juicer, and then you filter it. So it is a
Yeah.
wheat grass, which is considered one of the most healthiest drink to drink empty stomach in the early morning.
Ah, okay.
So so this was part of the project which talked about food and environmental thing, and how you can work with and myself becoming part of environment. So actually, see, for me, I worked because I made pocket because I don't own any land. So what one artist can think, like how one can own the earth by putting making multiple pockets. So that was the idea. So I owned
Okay.
that. I have my body as a land, and then I grow food in that.
Well, I don't own any land anymore either. I used to, but not anymore.
Yeah,
So
anyway, we are not taking it back.
no. But when I sold my properties in the US, there was this enormous sense of freedom because eventually your property owns you. You don't own the property. You just feel like you're trapped to it. So there's a double edge to that sword.
Yeah.
But anyway,
My idea was, like how body and earth can become one. So that was the kind of an metaphoric connection I wanted to do, apart from the base thing which I said. But this was like body and earth becoming one, nature and.
I find it so strange because I've always been a nature lover. And I've always been a conservationist in my own way. And I studied ecology when I was in high school. I mean, I was very big in biology. So I was kind of into the ecological perspective before it became a well known word, even ecology. And I find it so strange that, I mean, evolutionarily, we are connected to the forest and the trees and the running rivers. And everybody, no matter who you are, unless you have some sort of weird phobia, um, when you're in a natural environment, you immediately get more happy. And if you take off your shoes, you feel more connected with the land, and there's such an incredible connection to the world. So I just really fail to understand why, when that's so much a part of our evolutionary history and our evolutionary psychology, why are we so committed to like covering everything in concrete? It just boggles my mind. I don't understand. I mean, it's capitalism, but there's something about just human greed too. I don't
I
know.
I totally agree, because being in Bangalore, how Bangalore has transformed since last 15 years, can't even imagine. It used to be called as the garden city. Now you can call it as a concrete city. So
Well,
it's.
I remember the old Bangalore. I remember going there and I would consciously say, this city is so beautiful. They have beautiful trees along every street, along every boulevard. There were those beautiful tall trees. And when I heard they were cutting them for the metro system and road widening, my heart just broke. It was like, oh, the Bangalore I knew is gone.
Yeah, it's really tragic, because almost like 40,000 to 50,000 trees have been cut over the years, and we, in fact, we all artists also protested for that, to stop the steel flyover which they wanted to connect from MG Road and then to the airport, kind of. So we all most of the artists in Bangalore are always like in protest mood, I think so, like because the
I know. I
so
know.
it's like environmental concerns, and then we all artists come together for such issues, and then we together fight with for those
I
costs.
just don't understand why there isn't more rewilding and more reforestation. It's like, okay, the city has to expand in some ways, which maybe it does, but then why doesn't the government commit to rewilding and reforesting other areas, you know? Um,
I hope they understand. Slowly, I think there are some projects to also cultivate wells, regenerate the wells in Bangalore because we are facing a lot of water problem. Um, uh,
oh, the lakes. I'm
yes,
sorry I'm talking too much. This is your interview. But I mean, last time, I mean, I remembered beautiful lakes in Bangalore. And then last time I had to drive through, I was coming back from Malai, I think. And it was like, God, one lake is red and one lake is full of soap suds. And it was just like a nightmare.
yes, it's famous Belandu Lake, which is highly toxic and it emits fire instead of water. So it's like it's a well-known, famous, infamous lake of Asia, actually.
That the lake catches on fire.
Yes, because of toxic material in
We
that.
had that. We had that in the U.S. way back in the late '60s or early '70s. The river in Cleveland, Ohio, actually started on fire, and it became this big thing that the river was on fire because there were so many chemicals and things. But it spurred a lot of cleaning up. A lot of people, that was a signal that people had to clean up the waterways, and
Yes.
then the whole Earth Day movement was born. So all of that.
I think we should start that kind of measures, government especially from the government side, and even people they have to understand not to use toxic things, and so it's more to do with people and the government. We
So to
have to.
get back to your art a little bit, um, you're still doing prints, yeah?
Yes, I
Oh,
do.
wow.
I do prints. Sometimes I work with woodcuts because I don't have a press.
Okay.
Uh, so most of the time I depend on different artist private studios like JMS Money Studio, then Prati Studio I have worked, and then now recently I got a fellowship to write about changing trends in printmaking. So I'm writing like how it was when we started, like nobody, no gallery was thinking of us giving a break as a printmaker, and how in last 5 to 10 years, young artists have got the platform to work as a printmaker full time.
Slowly but surely, galleries are starting to show printmakers. Bhavna Latitude has showed Kataki Satapur, Chandan Bezbarua now, and Sogra and Park. I mean, I don't know all of them, but slowly they're beginning to show printmakers, which is good. And I always felt like if you have a thematic show and you invite various artists, why were they always inviting video artists, painters, and sculptors? And it's like, well, where are the printmakers?
Yes.
Include at least a couple prints in a show, you know?
Yes, I
But
totally agree. And maybe like if there are like Bhavna, like many artists, many galleries, they support printmakers. I think many printmakers will survive for future,
yeah,
and so it is also survival, because I feel it's not just doing keep on doing work. If you don't get anything out of it, like where the artist will invest, from where the artist will invest the money and reproduce new works, it's very difficult to sustain as an artist. First of all, the market has gone down, so
now, especially after COVID has gone down.
yes.
Do you have a gallery now or no?
I work with Sumukha. I've shown
Okay.
with Sumukha Art Gallery in Bangalore, solo show. And whenever I'm ready with any work, then I can approach them. And I think they'll be very willing to show my work. But I have not explored any galleries in Delhi or, so maybe in future.
Okay. So we're over our 30-minute limit, but is there anything else you'd like to say? Any words you'd like to give the art world?
Art world, I don't have. I'm not. I just want to say that as an artist, one has to just keep on working, and that kept me working till all these years. Even if I've concentrated more on performance art, but I still love doing printmaking, and I keep on working. And the only, I think, secret for successful is to do keep on working all the
Yeah,
time.
that's true. That's very true. I realized that very on when I was very young. I was still in my 20s, and that's when I was doing my crazy abstractions at one point. And I just, in my head, I just had it. Well, if I just keep doing this, eventually somebody's going to take notice. But eventually I realized I wasn't a good painter. I realized that. So then it was like, okay, on to other things. That's when I picked up the camera. So anyway, nice talking to you, Dimple Shaw.
Thank you,
Okay.
Vasu. Yeah, it was very wonderful talking to you and opening up my mind to you.
Okay. Love from Udaipur to Bangalore. I'm sorry about that mix up with Mitushi Chakravorty. She's going to be mad at me. So anyway,
Anyway, she
but
knows both of us, so nothing to worry.
well, I'm going to interview her someday too. So anyway, very nice talking to you, and I have to do my goodbyes here.
Thank
So
you, Vasu.
once again, goodbye from Wazo X Wazo Evil O. Please remember to like and subscribe. Helps the channel a lot. Say goodbye, Dimple.
Goodbye,
Wait,
Vasu.
why? No, you have to wave. You have to
Oh,
wave. Say goodbye.
goodbye.
Bye.